Hey guys, welcome to the Girl Take No podcast. I am your host, Shaunie Sanders, of course. And today we have special guest with us, Katherine McCord. She is the CEO and founder of Titan Management. Let's dive in. Listen, everyone that comes on the show, I like to ask them this one question before we start, is to give me the story behind the brand. What inspired you to start Titan Management?
That's a great question, actually. Thank you for asking. So I started Titan because I saw a bunch of BS happening out there. I was working in recruiting, I was working in HR, and I was like, I do not like how these people are being treated. This is not acceptable to me. I need to do this better. So I stepped out and I wanted a name with some strength. So I went with Titan. And you can actually, I don't think the audience can see the Kraken that's behind me. He is my mascot. Yes. Because we're releasing the Kraken on bias and poor hiring practices. So yeah, that's the story.
I love it. Clash of the Titans. I love it. Okay. One of my favorites. So let me ask you this. So was entrepreneurship always your goal? Or did you, like you say, you just saw that need and felt like, you know what, let me just try to start my own thing? Or did you always want to go into entrepreneurship, but you just didn't know where?
So yes and no. So I was a very precocious little child, and my mother worked in HR, and I started off, I would play convention and recruiting with her. I even fired my mother once. Like, it was super
you fired mom.
I was super into this. And but I also started selling shares, quote, quote, to companies that I supposedly when I was a child. Like, I was super into business early on, and even played business. And as I grew, I kind of always knew that's the direction I would go, but I just didn't know, from where and all that. So then when that, when that problem arose and I saw it, I said, yeah, that's what I need to do.
Oh, did you make the jump from full-time employee to full-time entrepreneur? Or are you like, hey, I'm going to just kind of toggle the line until I get there?
No, that's not my
Because I know that had to be scary to do.
I think for a sane person, it would be. I was just like, oh, it'll be fine. Obviously, I'm just not going to worry about it. And it's not that there wasn't stress; it was 100% stress. But I was just never scared. That wasn't an emotion that I had. Nor, like I said, I think normal sane people would, but I did not. And so I just that's part of my neurodiversity, which we're going to talk about here in a second. But I just kind of dove into it. And I've loved it. Even on the crazy times, the hard times, I've loved every second of it.
That is so good to just jump in and not even think about, it's not, because most people would think, what if this doesn't work out? I need to keep that 9 to 5, but you just jump right in. It's like, oh, it's going to work out. Like, I'm not even going to worry about it. I'll deal with what comes with it.
Yeah. I think it comes, like, even when I was a kid, I always had this idea, like, if somebody didn't like me or something, I was like, well, they're defective. Like, they're the problem. Yeah. Like, I'm cool. I'm awesome. Like, why would you bully me? I'm cool.
Exactly.
Like, it never occurred to me that things wouldn't work out or that I couldn't accomplish something. I had fantastic parents, and they really instilled a lot of confidence into me.
Yes.
And that made such a difference. And having a powerful mother who, exuded confidence all the time made a world of difference in my life. And then a father who he encouraged me every turn, every second. It was always like my cheerleader, you can do this kind of thing. So it was a good support network too. And I was very privileged from that standpoint to have that support network.
Listen, that is so awesome to have that confidence, because I think that's what a lot of people lack today is confidence, which is because of that confidence, it stopped them from doing certain things. That fear comes in and it stopped them from pursuing maybe something they really want to do with their life, their passion, their goals, and their dreams. And it's sad because so many people, I guess it's like that dream deferred thing. You know what I mean? People just don't go after it because of lack of confidence or afraid of that it might not actually work out for them. So that's so cool that I think they're probably the first person that probably said, I just quit. I'm like, I'm done. That I've interviewed, that I've asked that question to, because a lot of people are like, it was scary. Yeah. And not to say that it's not, because I know it is, because I'm still in full-time mode and I'm still podcasting. So I'm still kind of like on the line. But I think if the podcast gets to a level where I feel like, okay, it compensates for what I'm bringing, then I'll be like, okay, it's time to jump in full head on.
Yeah, it is. And I will say performance work is different than what I was doing too. So because I know that too. I've broke into that as well. And that is a very different ballgame from starting a company.
Yes, it is. So it's a lot of different more steps that need to be taken.
Yes. So complicated.
What were some of your biggest challenges in starting your company?
Oh my gosh. I love that. So I had to learn I'd done sales before, but I had to learn how to sell what I was doing. And that was interesting. Turns out that the best, at least for me, the best way to sell what it is that I do, which is the people side of HR. So it's not just recruiting, it's all the people side of HR, anything inclusion. We have classes, all that type of stuff, as well as, actual consulting, is to get out there and network, at which I just happen to be really good. I don't like the phone sales. I can close it on the phone, but that's just not really my thing. But getting out there, letting people get to know me, that I can rock, that I can do. And so it turns out that works. So it really behooved me to have gone into this type of industry where it just so happens that that's a good way to sell. But the other thing was how to set up my website properly so that my message was really clear. Because a lot of times you go to a company's website, you're like, what is this? I don't understand. What in the world do you do? and what makes you different? And why do I care? You have to kind of learn how to put all that, how to structure it. And here again, I use my networking skills to get to know all the people that could help me. And I even tried to pay these people and they wouldn't let me, which was super cool of them. But they would come.
That's really good.
It is. And they would critique. But we all help each other, right? I kind of have this really cool tribe. And so that's actually my biggest piece of advice to entrepreneurs or people who want to break into it, or even just in business, just anybody in business, is build your tribe, the people that will take care of you and put your interests first and will prioritize you as a human and be there to support you. Those people are invaluable. They're it. Yeah. That's it. The humans are it. Like all this other nonsense, you can learn all that. That's easy. It's the humans and making those connections. That's what makes the difference in your world.
And I think that's so important because we live in such a digital world now where that human connection is kind of lacking. So to still have that and say, hey, I really build my, my community by that human connection. Yeah. I think it's really good to say because we still need to interact with each other. Like we still need to pick up the phone and call each other sometime or meet up and see each other in person, go to events and actually network that way. That's how we used to do it back in the day. Yes. We had to actually go and do like guerrilla marketing. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's like, get out there and meet people. Don't just depend on online only to sell your service or your product. I think that's really good. That's really good advice. I like that.
And that shocks people. I'm an introvert and I still get out there and I firmly believe in this stuff. But what I tell people is if it's not something that you're good at, I can fake it till I'm good. That's just kind of how I get there. But if you need help, what you do is you get a wingman or wingwoman. And you take a wing person with you to kind of introduce you and then let you take off. And that works. But introverts, you can do it too.
Oh, that's good to say. I'm glad you said that because they needed that encouragement. Because you want to go on. Exactly. I do too. Because even like you said, with the whole sales thing, some people I think are afraid of sales because you don't want to come off as, I don't know, people don't want to come off as sleazy sales kind of people where you're consistently pushing. Yeah. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs have problems with talking about themselves and selling themselves or selling their product. Yes. Because even with me in the podcast, or for brand deals and stuff like that, it's like, I have to sell the podcast to them, right? I have to sell myself to them. And so being able to have a positive mind and understanding what I bring to the table is important, but also confidence is important.
Yes,
that's important
too.
Don't
be afraid to brag a little bit, folks. Like even job interviews, like brag. People miss that. Yeah. But not they'll be annoying. But but brag. Like tell people know what you do and just show your expertise. Just show your genius. That's really all it is to sales. I don't sell people because the truth is, at the time I turn clients down and I go, I'm not going to work. That's not happening. But have some pride and go into it knowing your value. We always say, like in the dating world, like, confidence is sexy. Well, it's the same thing if you're interviewing or if you're trying to get a client. Confidence is sexy. Yeah.
Confidence is sexy. I can't wait to get into the whole, hiring process and talk about HR. But I want to talk about neurodiversity. It's a word that I'm not familiar with. I've seen it before, but I'm not familiar with it. So please explain to me and all of my listeners and those who are watching what that means.
Sure. So actually the term has really evolved in the last couple of decades. And right now there's a big neurodiversity movement. And what it's encompassing is neurodiversity is now used to describe any medically visible and or diagnosable difference in how a person processes information and or stimuli. So think ADHD, dyslexia, autism, epilepsy, actually bipolar, so on and so forth, obsessive compulsive disorder, Tourette's, all these. It's about almost 30% of the population. So it's actually a huge section of the population, but that's what it refers to. It's just a different way that you process. And the movement is very much about that different is not a deficit, because what scientists and medical professionals and just people out in the world have started to realize is that yes, there are some challenges, there's some differences with some of these situations, most actually pushed on by society. But there's also benefits. Right. So like, you get a lot of creativity in this area, innovation, people that can create processes like no other, all these kind of superpowers that are built up. And so I'm like, you're just different. You just have a different way of thinking and processing. And it's just about, letting people work in ways that are natural and comfortable for them and not telling them that they can't just because you don't understand.
Exactly. I'm so glad you defined that for us, because my son is autistic, and you're right. He has his own superpower. He's super creative, very smart, very much so a child that pays attention to detail, and we tell him all the time that you're not different. You know what I mean? You're just like us. You just have a greater, you just do things greater than we do. Like you're very, I mean, like he can name every dinosaur that has ever walked this earth. He's 11, and it is like his jam. Like dinosaurs is his thing, and he can name every last one of them. And he's a great reader. Like, oh my God, there's so many amazing things about him. I'm so glad that you said that, because you're right. You're just different, but you can still do the same things we do.
There's nothing wrong with you. You're just different. I tell people I love autism so much I married it. Very literally. It's one of those things, it's a lot of people have a misconception of what that is. And the same thing with a lot of the other diagnoses in neurodiversity. So one of them, for instance, is what's known as dissociative identity disorder, formerly known as multiple personalities. And so I always tell people, just to put your mind at ease, no one in the DID community will spontaneously grow muscles, start climbing walls, and eating people like in the movie. Like that's not real life.
Been there, saw that one. Yeah, you're right. But that's how they try to publicize it, as if it's something like
you're
that.
Dangerous. You're dangerous.
Yeah.
With autism, it's almost like they want to show that you're stupid or something. Like no,
yeah,
it's the opposite actually in most cases.
Like you can't function on your own. You know what I mean? That's what they look at. It was
it's fine. And so it's in the same thing with dyslexia. Like, oh, you can't read. No, they can read. It's not illiteracy. It's two different things.
Exactly.
And it's just, trying to create a better sense of understanding of what's going on. And so I mentioned earlier that the social disability is actually worse than anything else. So there's 3 different types of disability. There's legal. So like here in the US, we have American Disabilities Act. So that's kind of the legal definition. We have medical. So where the medical community considers you disabled. And then we have social. Social, that your son probably experiences the most would be my guess. Same here. Same with a lot of other folks that I know. The social disability is the worst. And what's so irritating is that that's the easiest to fix if people will just listen.
Exactly.
We completely eliminate this, or damn near completely eliminate the social disability of people just listen. So, it's interesting. Like it's a lot, and for those folks in the job market right now, it's awful. It's absolutely.
It is. Let's talk about the job market, because as we mentioned before we started, I have so many friends who are looking for jobs. who have been searching and who I feel so defeated because they're like, I literally had a friend who tracked her resume applications, and she said, I put out 500 applications last week. She said, I literally applied to that many jobs. She said, and I didn't get not one single inquiry back. And so it's that defeated thing. And it makes me feel like, and you tell me, it's like, putting out a resume is like, I don't know, casting a line in the ocean. You know what I mean? Like hoping somebody bites, right? It's not, it's nothing is guaranteed. The job market is so different. How people respond is so different. Yeah. And I can share with how I got my new position I have. I got mine off LinkedIn. I didn't even apply for it. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So I know there's a lot of value in having a LinkedIn profile, but you tell me what you think is going on today.
Sorry, I had to cough real quick. So you're absolutely right. So first of all, resumes suck. Let's just put that out. They don't work. They create so much bias. They're ineffective. Harvard's done studies on it. Other schools have as well. They're just idiotic. We need to move away from it. And I do have a solution for that, but that's a whole other show.
We'll be back with that one.
We'll be back later. So really, the first thing that I like to let people know, because there's a lot of questions around this, there's not so much a right way to do your resume. There are a bunch of wrong things, but there's not really a right way. Don't overstress. Do the best that you can to encourage and to kind of help people understand best what you do, like list your accomplishments first, stuff like that. But really and truly, that's not what's going to land you your job. So, and right now, just so you know, I shared this with you before the show. I get out there and I apply to jobs all the time. I have other friends who do this too, who are not actually looking. We just want to know what it's like out there. We just want to kind of see what the applications are like, all this. We don't get responses either. And we're like, I get requests all the time, like for like speeches, presentations. I get randomly recruited, but I can't get a response to an application. So like,
yes, what is that?
Yeah. My other friends are at the top of their game. So do not think it is you. It is not. I want to get that message out there loud and clear. So, a big part of the problem right now is that people don't know how to hire. And I shouldn't say right now, like this is new, but that's really what we're kind of seeing come to the peak, is that people don't know how to hire. And hiring teams are not prepared. They don't know how to interview. They don't actually understand how to properly look at resumes and all of this. And so we're seeing a lot of failure in a system that has not been updated since the 90s. Okay, that's how old this mess has been. Like
the 90s.
The 90s.
I mean, we have AI now, people.
This is, and people are like, oh no, it's updated. No, it hasn't. No, it hasn't.
Yeah.
I've done all the research on this, and I can provide it to anybody who wants it. Feel free to reach out. But no, it really hasn't updated in any significant way. So what we're seeing is a lot of companies that still do this create the candidate profile thing, which is my candidate needs exactly this, or we don't want them. And they'll tell you that they're open to something different, but they've already created that bias in their brain. And so if it's not exactly that, they're not looking. And that's completely counterproductive. And we're seeing a lot of companies that don't understand that they need to move in the interview process. Like it's not acceptable to take weeks on a staff level position. It's not acceptable to take over 2 weeks in a management level position. Okay. That's ridiculous. And it's just a lot of inconsideration. Now, I have a whole diatribe about things that candidates can do better too. But I will say we're seeing the flaw in our hiring process right now. We're seeing why innovation is needed and why we need to move the dial forward. On the candidate side, one thing I tell everybody is stop mass applying. And I know that feels complicated. I want to give grace to that. You're not wrong. You're not dumb to have done this. I get it. But it actually does not work. Instead, start with finding your missions. So my missions are integrity, inclusion, innovation. Every single thing that I do, those three things are at the forefront. And if one element of that is missing, don't want it. Next thing. And I portray that to everybody. So find your missions, and between 2 and 4, doesn't have to be 3, between 2 and 4. And everything that you reach out to, make sure that it's going to fulfill those missions. and showcase how you align with those missions. Take the time to apply creatively and more personably, and you will get further. Now, you can still apply on LinkedIn. That works. Still use Indeed. That works. But better align yourself to the actual types of jobs that you want. And focus your resume more on what you can do, not what you have done, which seems counterintuitive. But it's focus more on what you can do, not what you have done. And then, good luck dealing with all the prejudice and bias too.
Oh, God. Let's not even talk about that, because just your name alone, people will X you out just for your name on the resume.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, 100%. Name, email, school you went to, location, employment gaps. Oh, God. Yeah. It's obscene. This is not a joke. I have seen dozens upon dozens of candidates rejected based on the font that they used, even though it was a perfect, like Times New Roman, Arial, something like that, wasn't what the person preferred.
God, do you think that it's best that you try to maybe, because they said, now the new currency is people, right? Knowing people, relationships are the new currency. And is it better to say, hey, find a company that aligns with your 3 goals that you want, right? Your 3 whys, I guess, and try to contact someone in that company, maybe, through LinkedIn, try to connect with someone to see. Because I feel like if you know someone, it seems like in the company, it seems like you'll get hired quicker versus just blind applying.
No, that is true. And blind applying, again, still works. It is something you ought to do. But you are better suited to get somebody that is in the company. So one piece of advice I give a lot is go to local networking events, go to industry conventions, and get in good, because a lot of time actually the hiring team is there, or at least one of them, and get in good there. And that's and a lot of these times you can get in dirt cheap or free to these types of things. Go to like small business expos, that type of thing, especially if you're looking to make a career pivot. Small businesses are a lot more likely to be open to that than large companies. So definitely try to get in and get a networking. Again, the people. You find your people. Find your people support you, and get a recruiter that works specifically in your line of work, that has clients with open roles. That's another one. Plus, even if they don't have an open role, sometimes they can just tell you, hey, this company's hiring this, that, or the other. So find a really good headhunter type recruiter, not corporate, headhunter type recruiter, to really get your information out there.
I was just going to ask if it would be wise to maybe get a headhunter or get with a recruiting agency, because they already have the in on certain things. Yeah, it can be. I think that works.
It can work really good. Also, a job coach, a career coach. I know some great ones out there. A couple that I would recommend would be Andi Cook, Andi Cook. She's in the Dallas area on LinkedIn, and then Hollis Roberts is another great one that I highly recommend, both on LinkedIn. And they land people left and right. So they can really help. And part of it is they use their network. So you also have the benefit of their network as well. Then they read LinkedIn and your resume and all that kind of stuff. So those kind of things can absolutely be helpful.
Yeah, that is really good. So how can someone overcome bias on their resume? I mean, it's not like you could tell them, change your name, right? If your name is Shaquita, you know what I mean? Like, they're going to know. I'm just saying, like, if you have a certain kind of name, they're going to know who you are. You sound the name sounds African American, right? And so how do you get around that, that bias?
Well, the first question I always ask people is, do you want to? Do you want to go work for a company who's going to be that way towards you?
Yeah, you're right.
That's question number one. I mean, now, hold on. Now, I do want to give grace again. I understand sometimes we just got to put food on the table, and that's just all there is. So I want to give grace to that. But number one, do you want to work for those kind of people? Like, I mean, I don't. I mean, forget them,
No, you don't. You really don't.
But the truth is, sometimes sometimes it's not just, race or gender. Sometimes it's age. Age is awful right now.
Oh yeah. Yes.
So what I try to do is what you're really battling is somebody's biases and their preconceived notions, their fears, right? You're battling their fears. And so what I tell people is, instead of changing your name or, lying about or leaving off dates and things like that, what I highly recommend is instead combating those fears very actively. So showcase, so whatever the perception is, so with ageism, for instance, people assume you can't learn. So showcase some recent learning that you've done, some recent education. When you, they're also going to assume that you're going to want to retire at any moment. So in your like mission line or part of your resume, so I'm looking forward to the next 5, 10, next decade at another company. Really emphasize.
That's a good tip.
Yeah, really emphasize. Get past the fear. As women, they're perpetually afraid that all we want to do is lay around and pop out babies, right? So, we think that's all we live to do, and that we can't do anything else. And so, combat that. Really showcase your accomplishments, same things, those kinds of things. Highlight, how. What your goals are and that kind of thing. Again, what you plan to do, not so much where you've been. And that's really how you get past that is from the resume. When you move to the interview, very similar type of thing. I have a whole speech and all that that I do for that. It's actually very simple. You just have to overcome their nonsense that they have in their minds and help them to understand what's going on. Now, if it's a disability, I like to address that too, because sometimes
please do.
You may need an accommodation during your interview process, and that can be scary because people do discriminate. I've had
they do
discriminated against me, and so it sucks. It's scary, it's horrifying, but again, you don't want to work for a company that's going to mistreat you, because if they do it during the interview, it's going to be 10 times worse when you on board. So, what I would say is there's a few different approaches. So number one is I like to use humor. So one of my kind of more predominant things that I have going on is that I have a facial tic that will happen as part of my seizure disorder. And it looks like I'm winking at you, right? So I tell people, I'm not trying to pick you up for a date. This is just,
I know.
This is just a little bit of activity. We just kind of laugh about it. They go, I let them know I'm okay. And as soon as they know I'm okay, they calm down, because it's scary to like, wait, what's happening?
Yes.
And so I just make a little joke, and then we go on. My mother has rheumatoid arthritis, so she uses a walker, and her hands are kind of crinkled up and stuff. So she'll come in, and she'll look so pitiful, and then she sits down and opens her mouth, and just all this power and strength comes out. And that's another approach, is just to immediately let them know I am here and I am strong.
Yes, exactly.
And exactly. Again, confidence is sexy, right? So humor, confidence, and just let them know exactly what you need. And you also don't have to say why. A lot of people miss that. Whatever your accommodation is, and this is another one to get around racial discrimination too, by the way, is to ask for camera off Zoom interviews. And just say, I need an accommodation, please. I would like to do camera off. It will help me focus. And you just say something like, it'll help me focus, or it will, help me to be more prepared, or something like that. And then just go on with it. You don't have to tell them your diagnosis. You don't have to tell them anything like that. And so that's another tip that I use for that is to help people be a little bit more comfortable.
I don't think, that was such a good tip to, ask them to request camera off, because I don't think people know that they can actually say that.
Yeah.
You think that, this is the interview, I just got to do camera on, this is what they want, So that's a good tip to help you be more comfortable and to get through the interview, because the interview process for so many people, I always tell people I'm a really good interviewer. I interview really well. I believe I do, at least. And because I walk in very confident, you know what I mean? I walk into an interview saying, and now, especially if I have another job already, I walk in saying, hey, what you can do for me versus what I can give you. What can you give me also? And I tell people all the time, you need to ask them questions too, because you got to understand that you're valuable as well, not just them. So you need to see what they offer and what they can offer you in terms of what you want. Because so many people, I wish you can give some tips, if you can give tips on how to interview, because so many people are so uncomfortable in interviews. They get so scared and they fumble through, and I'm just like, what happened? You do this job every day.
It's okay. And I tell people, because interviewing is weird. And especially if you're somebody that doesn't know how to do it right either. Like, I have to go through it. Like, I got you. Like, I'm your support team during an interview, but a lot of people, this is not how they're doing. Grilling you, or they're awkward themselves, which is fine too. Give grace to them. Yeah. They're awkward too. And it's like, oh Lord, so I do always tell people, like, it's my job to be good at interviewing. It's the hiring teams, not the candidates. They don't need to be good at interviewing. That's how it's That's how it ought to be. But in real life,
Yeah.
so some tips. So first of all, get yourself pumped before you go in. Listen to those songs that get you pumped up. Call that person that's your cheerleader and have them rah-rah you for about 3 to 4 minutes, and then go in. Do those kinds of things. Eat the right foods, people. It does make a difference. If you're sitting there with tummy problems and you're or low energy and you're trying to interview, it's not going to do right. Feed your brain well. And then when you go in, or you're on screen or whatever it is, like she said, focus on what's important to you too. You matter. This is just like a date, right? It's not just them. It's just not that they want you. You want them.
Exactly.
And whenever I'm interviewing, I start by telling them everything I think they want to know, letting them ask questions, and then I ask this question, but I'm going to teach you how to pivot this to be the candidate leading this conversation. So the very first thing out of my mouth after I go through all the things I think they want to know is, what matters most to you in your next role? That's the first thing out of my mouth. So when you're a candidate, to flip that, you say to them, these are the things that matter to me in my next role. How do you align with this?
Oh, that's a good one. I like that.
And make them get specific. They'll try to be real general. No, be specific. For instance, does inclusion matter to you? Oh yeah, we're all about inclusion. Okay, what specifically are you doing? And then test that. Let's say include, and again, I'm just using inclusion because it's one of mine.
Yeah.
So let's say they say inclusion matters. Okay, great. So what are you doing for neurodiverse inclusion? And if I were to say to you that I found this part of your hiring process uninclusive, what do you think about that? Test that. Do they respond with curiosity and with interest? Do they want to change? Or do they go, well, we're doing this and blah, blah. Okay. Now you just told me you're not really inclusive, and for instance, you might want to say, if, how many people of color that are women do you have in leadership?
Oh yeah. That's a big one.
So again, I'm just basing on inclusion, but you can do this with anything. So test it, push that. Don't just let them give you the answer that they know you want to hear. Don't make it easy on them. Now, if HR does not know, that can be normal for certain things, not inclusion. Yeah. You don't know that. But on like job specific stuff, they may tell you that's a great question. Please ask that in the next stage. That's okay. HR will not know everything. But when you get to that hiring manager, they better know. Oh yeah. They better be able to answer those questions. And so really put the focus back on you. And that's a great way to really start. And if you want, at the beginning of the intro, you can do your introductions and say, before we get started, I would like to ask a question, please. And then go into that, because it really changes the whole energy of the interview. And if you take that control, number one, you're showing that confidence. And number two, you're letting them know what's up. And number three, it really does change the whole energy. Now the energy has shifted to, this is a conversation. I matter too. And you'll be surprised, even the people that didn't go into it with this mindset, all of a sudden they're thinking differently about it.
Yes. I like that. You're right. Make it more of a conversation now versus sometimes you feel like it's an interrogation.
Yeah. People do it that way. It's horrible. Like
they do.
Why are you abusing?
And you know what else bothers me about this interviewing process, this new way of interviewing, is that when I had a few companies reach out to me, big brands too. I think the thing that bothered me most is that I had one brand reached out to me. I'm not going to say who they are because I'm like, I don't want them bothering me. And they had me do, I swear to you, I must have interviewed maybe 12 people. One person one time, a panel people, 4 people another time, another one person, another 2, another 3. And then when it came down to the end, they said, yeah, we just want you to interview with 2 more people. And I was just like, you know what? I don't even want this job.
No,
I declined. I did. I just told them, I said, thank you for the interest, but I'm going to have to decline this interview because I just felt like it was too much. How ridiculous. Much more can I say? How much more can I sell myself? How much more can I answer? I've answered every question. I talked to everybody. I feel like, am I talking to everybody in the company? Yeah. And so the last interview was going to be the, not the CEO, but the president or whoever of HR. And I'm like, why do I need to talk to the person who's the head of HR? I just talked to a few HR
interviewing for HR. Like,
no, I wasn't. But I was like, why do I need to talk to the head of HR?
that doesn't make any sense.
When I already talked to like 3 HR people already, and now I got to talk to the head of HR?
Oh Lord, no,
I was
extra. I don't know why.
I don't know, but I just feel like today a lot of companies interview with multiple interviews before they make a decision. Panel interviews, which really scares the hell out of people. You know what I mean? When you have to go through, like, you have to sit in front of a virtual screen or whatever with 3-4 people, and you're like,
I
oh my God.
those so heavily. They're so uninclusive. They're so stress. They cause so much stress, and actually they're very ineffective because it's
oh my God,
a lot of talking over and just bleh, it's just not very good. And the multi-interview, that's also a good. I'm glad you brought that up because that's a really good indicator of a horribly unorganized and inconsiderate company. Both.
Oh my God.
Because interviewing, let me tell you, you don't need that many people involved. It also means that they don't trust their employees. That's another thing that it means. It means that they do not trust each other. They do not trust the team members to make the decision. That's checks and balances is what you're seeing. And so you don't want to work for that company unless you like micromanaging. Maybe you do.
No.
Each their
own.
My God. Maybe
I don't.
I don't know, but
you know what? You're right. That does feel like micromanaging.
It is.
When you think about it.
The company has said we don't trust anybody. We need all these checks and balances.
God.
We don't trust the candidates to have been honest with us. So we gotta, it also means they're not training their people. It means it's such a negative indicator when you see those types of processes, and you see them both in big businesses who have way bureaucracy, and you see them in about not usually like the small companies, but
no, this is a big brand.
Like the small mids. The small mids will also kind of get that way. And it's like, no, you need to calm down. It's not, no, it's not that serious. It's just one of those things that companies miss the mark. And again, with the train your people. Like there are ways out there to learn how to interview properly. There's ways out there to learn how to be more inclusive. I mean, a million ways. So why companies do not put this level of effort in, I do not know. It baffles me. It
baffled me because I was just like, I'm tired. I can't even do
I can't
any more of this. I can't. There's nothing more I can say. If you guys, I feel like if you don't know I'm the one, there's nothing more I can tell you.
Yeah.
I'm just not it for you. You know what I mean? And you're definitely not it for me because
not the one.
This is too much. Because you're right. The one that I actually took, they interviewed me one day. I interviewed one person. They liked me. I interviewed with the head of the person over him. They hired me the same day, and that was it.
See the quick interview process. I'm telling you,
2 people done because I'm like, when you know what you want, I don't have to go through 12 people to get to a position, and it was ridiculous. But also, tell me what you think about, because some companies now they do those multiple interviews, but they're based them more on, are you a fit for our environment versus your skill set? I see a lot of people hiring not based off skill set, but do you fit this environment? And a lot of that happens in tech because I'm in tech. And so a lot of that happens in the tech field.
It's very true. And actually it's everywhere. Just, that's it's big in tech field, but no, it's everywhere. So here is my thought on that. So number one, to hire somebody based off of culture fit is idiotic. Now, what you need to do is make sure that the person aligns with the mission and goals. That makes sense, right? Does this person align with the mission and goals? Cool. Yes. Does this person have the skill set to do the job, or close enough to that we could train them the rest of the way? Cool. None of this, do they get along with the team? First of all, you do not go to work to make friends. You are there to do a job.
That's what I say.
End of story. It is also incredibly uninclusive because you have folks, for instance, like my husband, who does not like small talk, does not give a crud about any of that mess. He's there to do his job, and that is it. He rocks at it. He's a top performer. He's the top performer, actually, but just doesn't want to do all that mess. So... they don't need to get along. They don't need to want to participate in small chat. That's ridiculous. So instead of looking for culture fits, even culture ads, which I get more behind that line of thinking, that's kind of more of we want somebody new and we're specifically seeking diversity. I can get more behind that. But ultimately it's, do they align with the mission and the goals of the team? And can they do the job? You're done. People overcomplicate hiring. It's like they're trying
God.
to marry somebody up in there. I'm like, no, calm down.
I mean, what am I interviewing for? Am I trying to be the president of the United States? I don't even think it takes that much to be the president.
Obviously.
Obviously it doesn't. Like, he didn't go through no interview process like that. God.
It is ridiculous. It is ridiculous. I'm like, and then I've seen companies too that want to check like 5 or 6 references. Oh, my all-time favorite. They want you to do a project. No.
Oh,
they
yes.
better pay you. They better pay you to do that project.
Yep, but they want you to come in.
Cool. If they pay you for it, cool. I have no problem with that as part of the interview process then. For certain types of roles. Like in IT, there could be reason for that. Writing, like for writers, like selling.
They want to see samples.
Yeah. But they better pay you for that. They better. There's no free labor over here. I literally, this is not a joke. I had a company go, we'd be super interested in doing business with you, but we need you to design a whole recruiting program, give us all the resources you would use. I said, so you want me to do the job for free?
Free. Yes.
And then you want to see if maybe later you want to pay me. And they go, oh no, that's not it. I said, no, that is it. That is 100% what this is. There is no other option here. That is exactly what's happening.
And then you take my ideal and just run with it. Because now I gave it to you.
Yep.
Now, my God.
And I had a company one time, and this is how you check, folks. This is how you know if they're trying to be shady or not. You say, okay, I'm glad to do the project for you. Even if, they don't pay you, say, okay, I'll do it for you this one time as a pro bono, but I need a contract and an ND signed so that you cannot use this idea. Mm-hmm. You cannot. You can't.
That's right.
My idea that I own this project. It is mine. Yep. And then see if they're willing to sign that. Because if they are, okay, cool. If not, move on.
Exactly. I have had a lot of friends. I've never had to do that type of position, but I have had a lot of friends who had to, I got to do this presentation. They want me to come in with this presentation. And I'm like, a presentation?
Yeah.
I mean, God, you're right. Companies make the hiring process so difficult today. Oh my God.
It's so ridiculous. I'm like,
it really is. It's discouraging.
It is. And I've built entire recruiting programs. In fact, there was one time I built a recruiting program. We had 26 people in the department. Out of that, 3 people had recruiting experience. 3. That is 23 of them did not. Train them from ground up. And guess what? We were massively successful. Almost all of them continued in recruiting for the rest of their careers. I'm like, see?
God.
It's about the right human, having the right instincts. And I tell all of them, I'm like, don't you make these people jump through hoops. Don't you do that.
They do. They make you jump through hoops. They wait forever to get back to you about a position to tell you either yay or nay. And I think a lot of people, one of my friends say the thing that bothers her the most is that, if she's doing interviews and then she don't hear back, she's like, the least they can tell me is that I didn't get it.
Yes.
She said, I have to reach out to them to find out I wasn't chosen.
And let's say you don't know, tell them you don't know yet, because y'all, usually it's not HR. HR is not the slow pokes. Let me tell you, it's leadership. That's who's doing it. And a lot of the weird stuff you see in interview actually is not HR. Even the stuff that HR is having to do is from leadership, just so y'all know.
Yeah.
But it's still on them to let you know what's up and to communicate. And by the way, so for all of my complaints for HR technology, the one thing that it's very capable of doing is sending quick emails, sending quick information, even with basic templates, just to let you know, hey, we're still waiting, but we will circle back to you. They don't have to sit there and type all that mess out. They can have a template, send it to you, and then circle back. There is literally no excuse. That is laziness and inconsiderate. And being inconsiderate.
Oh, yeah.
And I can't stand that. That it drives me up the wall. Now, occasionally you'll mess up. Like, once in a blue moon, I think I've messaged somebody and it didn't happen. So I give grace, but the people that never do it, shame.
It's like, it's crazy. It is. And then you're just like, I interviewed and never heard back. That's normally how it goes.
That's so
and
crazy to me. That's insane.
Like, it's insane. And it really messes with people's psyche. Like, it really messes with people. It really do. It really do, because they're just like, nothing, no word, nothing.
It's rude. It's ghosting, and it's rude.
Yeah, the HR practice need to be it needs an overhaul.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people that want to transition their careers, right? They're doing one thing and it's like, hey, I really want to do something different. I want to go in the tech field or do something. Yeah, they want to pivot. How do you tell that person who's at a certain age, right? Because they've been in their position for a while. How do you tell them the best way for them to pivot into a new career? Because I have friends who want to come into the industry I'm in the tech industry. You know, I tell them I'm in a non-technical role now. I'm not a developer. You know, I run teams and stuff like that. But, you know, so I'm like, you have to look at your skill set and see what's transferable. So what advice do you give someone that want to pivot into whatever industry, but how do they make that pivot?
First of all, talk to people who are already in the roles. Mm-hmm. In the companies you want to be in are as close to as you can get. Talk to those people, have those conversations, because they will give you insights that you desperately need. Also, sometimes what you think a role is not actually what it is. I've scared a lot of people away from recruiting and HR over the years, and also welcomed a lot of people into it. So having that insight is very important. So that's step number one. Step number two, you need to, again, pivot everything, your LinkedIn, your messaging and your resume, all to be about what you want to do, not what you have done. So you need to highlight the aspects of what you did that were all about what you want to do. You can also change your job title. Job titles don't matter anyway. That's not lying. Just make sure you're still accurately describing what you did. But if your job title is really confusing, or if it really is not going to sell you for this new role, find something else that still accurately describes what you did and just change it to that, because it really does make a difference. People, for some reason that is beyond me, get real stuck on job titles. Job titles are essentially meaningless. So do not feel bad doing this. Just make sure, again, that it's accurate, but pivot it. And make sure that you're communicating what you want to do, not what you have been doing. Then the next thing is get yourself some formal education in whatever it is. Or experience, even if it's volunteer experience, one or the other. Volunteer something, do something that shows that you have actual experience in what you're doing. That's a great way to pivot. And then go after small companies. They're the best for letting people pivot. They really are. Get out there, companies with like 300 or less. That's who I mean. 300 people or less. Reach out to them, let them know, network with them. Go out there, go to like small business expos, go to industry functions or position functions, where you can meet other people, get to know them, and market yourself with those smaller companies. That is by far your best chance. These big companies want people that are already up and going. For the most part, they don't have the best training programs often, not always, but often. So go with a smaller company. That really makes a difference.
That sounds good. I like that, because I know a lot of people that want to make that pivot and are afraid to. What advice do you give people? Because this is one thing I know for sure that people are afraid to talk about during interviews is salary. Like, I have a friend who actually took a job and didn't know what her salary was. And I was like, well, how did you take a job and you don't know how much you're making? And she was like, oh, well, I just thought that, they're just letting me. I was like, well, I would have never took a job if I don't know how much they're paying. Like, what if you're like not really happy with what they're giving you? But I know that the issue of money or negotiating a salary during the hiring process is so uncomfortable for people. So what advice do you have for people to talk about salary?
Yeah. So again, I never had that fear. I was like, you tell me that's the whole reason I'm here is my money. I don't care. So companies say this nonsense about, well, we want somebody who's here for more than just the money. Okay. Except that then they would just be volunteering. No, they're working because they want and or need money. So money is the thing. It's not a thing. It is the thing. And yes, mission alignment is wonderful. Happiness, PTO benefits, all that. But we need that money. That's how we pay our bills and keep food on our tables. So never hesitate to not only bring it up, but to stand firm. I have a personal policy. I won't go past call 1 without discussing it, without discussing money. I at least want a range. And there's this fear that, the first person who throws out a number is going to lose the negotiation. That's hooey. The person who wins the negotiation is the one who's willing to walk away. So the second that they say, oh, we're not sure about that number, or, oh, no, that doesn't work for us, just say, okay, well, thank you so very much for your time. Bye. you know what? I've had people circle back to me and to other people I've told that to and go, you know what? We decided we can up our budget for you.
Exactly.
So don't think that it won't work, but be willing to walk away. And if it's now the numbers are real close, like let's say you throw out 150 or you were thinking 150 and they say 145 is their absolute max. Go through the interview process. Sometimes by the time you get to the end of it, you're either willing to come down or they're willing to come up. That's close enough that I would just still go with it. If it's
me too.
Or if they refuse to give you a number, say, well, then thank you very much for your time, but I'm out. You know,
exactly.
And just throw the deuces and walk away because they'll either circle back or not, but you don't want to work for a company that plays with money either.
No.
I
don't want to work for a company that doesn't talk about salary. You know what I mean? I don't want to bring it up, that wait until the 5th interview to talk about what it is. And I'm like, this doesn't meet my salary requirements.
I've had some HR folks that reached out to myself or the people that I know and would do this whole, well, we're trying to see what the market's looking for. First of all, that means they're lazy and just not doing their job. They should have already known that. But second of all, the way that you handle that is you say, okay, here is my number and I am very interested in the position. Please, before the next step, I will need to know if that number is in line with what you're doing. Like, okay, I'll be part of your market research, but I'm not going any further and wasting any more of my time until you set that expectation and you set that salary. So that's a big one. But yeah, don't be shy about your number. Again, confidence is sexy and be willing to walk away. That's how you win a negotiation. Be willing to walk away. And I like that because I'm like, so many people struggle with just salary, just being afraid. I've had family members call, well, should I say what I really want? I'm like, yes, you should say what you want, especially if it's below what you're making now. Why would you take something that's below what you're making or either the same when you're trying to move up in your career and you want more? Unless it's great opportunity somewhere, you know what I mean? So there are reasons to take less, but it needs to be worth your time, and that's a whole other thing. It does. That's a whole other series.
It has to be, but this has been a good conversation. Like I said, I have a lot of people who are in the job market right now who are, have jobs but looking to move into different positions, looking to pivot in their career, and I have some people who are just kind of like housewives and want to now get into. What advice do you give a housewife who's kind of been out of work for a few years? And they want to get into the job field. And I mind you, I have some friends that feel like, oh, I want to get into what you're doing. And I'm like, nope. Girl, I've been in this for a while now. I didn't just jump into this yesterday. You gotta have you gotta understand technical jargon at least to be in my position. Yeah. You don't have to do it, but you have to understand the process.
So first of all, be realistic. Like, don't think you're going to go from I've been a stay-at-home mom for the last 5 years, like straight into management or something like that. Even if you were in management previously, in all reality, that's probably not going to happen. If you've only been out about a year or so, you're still very transferable, maybe even 2. Once you start creeping up past 2 years, it's going to get a lot more difficult. If that's all you've ever done, no shame, ladies. I am all for it, 100% power to you. But please do not think that qualifies you for most professional roles out there. It does not. Now, you will have certain, and that's hard for mamas to hear. It's so hard. But it's just true. You will have some soft skills that are very valuable. But you don't want to put being a mother on your resume. Please don't do that. That is the worst. It really sends the wrong message. So, if you wanted more advice on that, please contact me after the show. But, so number one, be realistic. Understand, how long you've been out versus what skills you actually have. Again, get you some education. That will help as you're leading up to wanting to go back. Get yourself some education. Get yourself some volunteer experience. Volunteer experience goes a long way. Volunteer as an executive assistant. Volunteer as a tech intern. Whatever it is. Volunteer. Get you some experience. That will really help. The other thing is, don't be afraid of entrepreneurship. And don't, I'm going to be real clear. Multi-level marketing is not entrepreneurship. It is not business ownership. It is being a commission-only salesperson. Do not fall for that. No.
I'm so glad you said that.
No. No to that. Don't. So, but don't be afraid of entrepreneurship. So, am very proud of my grandmother. She is one of the most extraordinary women that I've known in my life. And she went from being the most BA housewife ever in life, making her kids clothes, cleaning that house, having dinner parties, all this kind of stuff. Rocked that for, well over a decade, about a decade and a half. Then decided she was going to go have a 9-to-5 job in downtown Dallas. Rocked that. Then decided to go be a missionary randomly in Papua New Guinea for a couple of years. Then comes back and decides to run a business. So hashtag be like Mimi.
Okay. I mean, really, she can do it. She can do it all.
She can. Okay. That woman, she's amazing. I tell you what.
Absolutely.
She's such a part of all my speeches and all. She's actually now about to have her own merchandise, which she's very thrilled about. That's her next venture.
Oh my God.
So
I gotta be like Mimi.
I'm telling you, Mimi is incredible. So be like me and don't be scared. Just if you have an idea, if you have a passion, if you have something you want to do, don't be afraid to get out there and do it. And sometimes that means, again, starting with volunteer work. And I do recommend always starting with that. It means building a good network, but just dive into it and do it. And ladies, we are coming out in record numbers right now with entrepreneurship, and we are the ones blowing up the workforce and innovating and all that. This is your time, ladies. Shine.
It's time to shine.
It's time to shine, ladies. But just, be realistic, figure out where you're at, and just, find a path. Just ask the people who are in the know and find a path and go for it. It may take longer than you want. It may not be exactly what you want when you want, but find that path, find those missions, and dive into it. And hashtag be like Mimi.
Hashtag be like Mimi. Oh my God. This was a great show. That was a good way to end the show. Be like Mimi. We got to get that trending on Twitter.
We do. We need to do it. We need to just trend everywhere. Be like Mimi.
Exactly. Oh, Katherine, this has been great. I appreciate you coming on the show. Before we end, it's just one question I ask all my guests before we end the show is, what was some of the best advice you received from another woman? And you got great women in your life, so you must have great advice.
I have so much advice, but I will tell you the one that stuck out to me the most, and it kind of goes back to that, how to overcome bias. So this is the one right there. I had a beautiful woman who ran a business, who actually took over a business, look at me and say, let them think you're stupid and then take everything. She said, when these people treat you like you don't belong, when these people treat you like you're less than, when these people treat you like you're dumber than them or you don't know this or that, let them think it and then take everything. And then look back and go, bye. And
gotcha.
That has served me so well over the years. I have gone into situations where people just really thought they had the upper hand. They just made assumptions. And they learned real quick that just wasn't how it was. And often to their own detriment, to their own fault. I didn't do anything to them. They did it. And and because of that, I've never felt less than. I've never felt like I didn't belong. The problem was them, not me.
Yep.
So know that and let them think you're stupid. Take over and just win that negotiation. Get that better position. Rock yourself and just ride the roller coaster of life.
Oh man, that was good advice. You're right. Let them think you're stupid and take everything.
Take it.
Don't try to change their mind. Just be authentically you. Don't try to change nobody's mind about who you are.
Just let them think
you get it.
Hurt you
exactly. It don't matter. Oh God, that was great advice. Thanks, Katherine. I really appreciate you being on the show. This was a really awesome interview. I had a really good time interviewing you. We definitely got to have you back because there's so much more we could talk about with just hiring HR in the job markets for sure. This was fun.
Thank you so much.
Oh God, thank you. All right, guys. I am Shaunie Sanders. This is the Girl Techno Podcast, and I will see you next time.